All right, let's get into emails for the week. Remember, you can email info@davidpakman.com if you have something to say. Please use the email address sparingly because if you use it a lot, your emails will get auto-flagged into the trash, unfortunately. I was actually, we were updating our system the other day, and we actually have close to 100 different people that email us so much that their emails are just being auto-filtered. So don't be one of those folks. Send an occasional message if you have something to say. First one actually comes from Facebook and says, "Could you be any more delusional? You constantly spew propaganda and claims that are easily proven false. Then you never retract. You're a pathetic joke." I have to congratulate this person. It seems almost like a legal requirement that if you send right-wing hate mail, you mix up your and the contraction for you apostrophe re. This person actually got the right your here, and they really should be commended for that. Now, everything else they say is, of course, untrue. They don't cite anything that I was wrong about or correct me. They're also wrong that we never retract. In fact, when I'm made aware that we got something wrong on the show, I will usually open the following show and actually just say, "Hey, I got something wrong yesterday, and here's what it was. I apologize. Here's what it is." Okay, next one from Chris. Chris says vaccine hesitancy in other countries. David, sir, I've recently read there is vaccine hesitancy in other parts of the world. I realize that in America, most of the hesitancy is politically based. What is your opinion of this phenomenon in other countries? Love your show. Listen daily. Paid subscriber. Keep up the great work. It's different in different countries. We've talked about vaccine hesitancy, for example, in France versus in Italy and in other countries as well. In some places, it is political, as influenced by what's going on in the United States. So there are other countries where folks have been convinced by the rantings of American right-wingers about it's authoritarian, it's oppressive, all of this different stuff, and they've just sort of gone with that. There's also a pretty sizable anti-big pharma sentiment in some other countries that drives vaccine hesitancy. And, you know, in the United States, we talked about this with Nicholas Christakis 2 weeks ago. Before the COVID vaccines in the United States, you had anti-vax on the left and you also had it on the right. The left-wing anti-vax tended to be motivated by distrust of big pharma. I don't trust big corporations. The anti-vax on the right tended to be dominated by I don't trust the government, meaning if a school requires my kid to be vaccinated, I don't trust that, or whatever the case may be. And so you had a kind of crossover of anti-vax from left and right. In the United States, COVID anti-vax is overwhelmingly right-wing. It still exists on the left. Jordan Klepper recently did some interesting interviews with some folks in at the LA area, and they don't seem particularly right-wing. They seem more distrustful of vaccines along the sort of like Reiki, homeopathy, herbs type thing, which is more of a left-wing thing. And you see that more in other countries as well. You see that in Italy. You see that in France as well. So the answer to what drives anti-vax in other countries is it depends on which country. And there's a little bit of everything floating around. A next email came from PP, who says, "Hey, David, I was wondering if you could shed some light on this new Fauci Bill Gates email thread that Alex Jones and Glenn Beck are saying is a smoking gun, that COVID was a product of gain-of-function research, and then them, along with Moderna, had the vaccine created 6 months before the virus came out and released it on purpose, and all kind of wacky stuff." Yeah, I can't comment. Unfortunately, I can't shed any light into that. That sounds like 5 or 6 different conspiracy theories blended together into a smoothie of sorts. And I have no idea how they all come together. I've never even heard of them put together into one conspiracy like that. One thing I think is important to consider is if the conspiracy is so confusing that you can't even really come up with plausible motive linking all of these groups together. Like, as I've said many times before, finding motive alone does not prove a conspiracy theory. But if you can't even find motive or understand it, or even really understand what the theory is, be skeptical of the people that are telling you that this is the way that things are. Austin wrote in about Trump's weird sniff and says, David, I haven't heard you bring this up yet, but another one of Trump's big tells is that sniff thing he does after almost every sentence. Very annoying and a pretty good indicator he's spinning another yarn. Keep it up, bud. I've never seen the Trump sniffing as a signal that he's lying, because he sniffs almost all the time. Now, you might say, well, yeah, but David, he's lying almost all the time. But even when he says inconsequential things, I see the sniff more of like as a tick, or maybe something related to medication he takes or something like that. And it is notable. He'll say, I got home and Melania said to me, sir, you were on TV. And then there's the sniff there. For me, it's less about lying. It just seems to be a verbal thing that Trump does, maybe related to medication, but it never seems specifically like a lie signal. The big lie signals I've identified are he claims someone called him sir, like when the infamous story, the one that's the obvious lie, when he said, when I came into office, a general came to me and said, sir, we have no ammunition. We're out of bullets from Obama. And I told him, well, let's buy more. Like, that story couldn't have happened. That's a lie. The other one is he says, and it's really a shame. He'll say, well, 100,000 dead people voted, and they took Michigan and Pennsylvania and Arizona from me, and it's really a shame. It's really a shame. That's a sign that he's lying. And then the other one is, and it should never happen again, or we can't let it happen again. They took the election with an insurrection on November 3rd, and we can't let it happen again. He's lying when he uses that one, and also many, many others. But the sniff one, for me, that's a different category. Leslie wrote in with a non-political question. This is actually a really good question. Leslie says, hey, David, love the show. Would appreciate your input. If a group of people go on vacation together, would you split the cost of the vacation rental per person or per bedroom? I've always subscribed to per person, but have discovered recently a friend uses the per bedroom calculation. When divided per bedroom, the single friend pays more for their room than the couple. In my mind, all other parts of the rental home and its amenities would be considered equal, so why not the bedrooms? In your opinion, which is correct? You could really go either way with this. Let's imagine not a vacation rental, but let's imagine an apartment, right? Because at a vacation rental, you don't usually pay for electricity, water, utilities, etc. If you're renting an apartment and you've got a couple sharing a room and then a single person sharing a room, it seems reasonable to me that you would say, okay, in terms of space, we have a room and you have a room. So that would be split equally, even though it's two people versus one. But you would adjust for the fact that utilities are going to be higher for the two people. And how you do that, I don't know. You say, well, we will pay, I guess you just say if the utilities are paid separately, we'll pay 2/3 of the utilities, but half of the rent. That seems reasonable mathematically. On a vacation, I think I would take a totally different approach, quite frankly. And it's who proposes it, and honestly, who makes more money. There's a lot of situations I've been in where it's sort of like, if someone is financially better off and says, I'm the one renting, I'm renting this house either way, come on and, throw me $100 or, whatever the case may be. That's often the way it actually goes, less than on a per person or per bedroom basis. But as a general thing, on a vacation rental, I lean heavily on per bedroom. Per bedroom. Let me know what you think. Evan wrote in and says, conservative hypocrisy about natural immunity. David, sir, I see many conservatives and vaccine skeptics espousing the use of monoclonal antibodies to treat COVID, such as Dennis Prager or your more recent segment on Joe Rogan supporting it. This seems very counterintuitive to their baseless theory that so-called natural immunity is better than vaccine immunity. Is it not hypocritical that they are so against a vaccine that will strengthen the immune system against COVID, but are willing to take a different drug that also strengthens your immune system against COVID? I understand the drugs and their effects are different, but from their perspective of so-called natural immunity, they are still unnatural substances you're putting into your body to fight off the virus. Of course, yeah. Monoclonal antibodies. Listen, when they say they don't trust the vaccine, but they trust the antibodies, the Pfizer vaccine is now fully approved. whereas the antibodies are only approved via emergency use. So it's a lower standard. Number two, when they say I don't trust big pharma, the monoclonal antibodies are also made by big pharma, and they are far more profitable at I think about $2,000 per treatment than a $15 to $30 vaccine. So the money argument also doesn't make sense. And yes, in a sense, you are generating immunity not simply by fighting off the virus, but via the integration of other antibodies that you didn't create into your body. So it is absolutely hypocritical along those lines as well. Very, very good point. And what's the answer? The answer is they don't actually care. They're just against the vaccine because all the arguments they make against it fall apart when you see that they're doing monoclonal antibodies or other big pharma treatments or things that are not actually FDA approved either. James wrote in and says, Congressman Nunes was on the evening edit on Fox, and my jaw practically dropped. They were complaining about Hunter Biden making money with China and how he shouldn't be allowed to fly on Air Force One and he was trading with the enemy. These are the same people that had no problem with the Kushners making hundreds of millions of dollars while working in the White House and Ivanka being granted trademarks by the Chinese government. My advice on this Hunter Biden stuff is do not even engage. Just ignore it. Like, I don't really know what they're saying now about Hunter. I know some right-wingers write to me and say, David, you should be talking about Hunter. Hunter has no involvement with the Biden administration. And of course, all of the criticisms of Hunter apply, well, maybe not all, but close to all of the criticisms of Hunter apply certainly to Jared and Ivanka at minimum, if not also to Don Jr. and Eric Trump. They don't apply to Barron, I guess. That would be the exception. And Tiffany, everybody forgets about Tiffany. Yeah, just I wouldn't even pay attention, quite frankly. Zach from Orlando has a crazy story and says, just wanted to share a story I overheard while at the office yesterday. For context, I work in Orlando and occasionally have to visit the corporate office in Tampa. When I arrived, I overheard our COO and CFO complaining about the traffic on I-4 and how it's all part of Biden's America. You see, David, according to these highly overpaid executives, ever since Biden got into office, nobody wants to work. Since nobody wants to work, there's less truck drivers on the road. That would be fewer. Since there's fewer truck drivers on the road, trucking companies have to hire people with less experience, although I thought nobody wanted to work. And finally, since there are more inexperienced truck drivers on the road, there's more traffic. Because by virtue of being less experienced, they drive more slowly, I guess. Makes sense, right? Couldn't possibly have anything to do with our crumbling infrastructure, poor public transit options, etc. Nope, all Biden's fault. Yeah, that's pretty full on. I mean, that's wackier. It's so specific, and it's sort of a problem. How do I even say it? It's an explanation in search of a problem, sort of. I don't even know how to say it fully. But that's really wacky. And Zach, I'm really sorry that you're working around that kind of nonsense. Hopefully it's not like that every day. Thanks for all of your emails. You can send yours to info@davidpakman.com. And we've got a great bonus show planned for you today. You can sign up at joinpakman.com. And otherwise, we'll be back with you on Monday.